Welcome along to the Beyond Alpha podcast. My name's Karl Walkinshaw. I'm your host today, and it's my sincere honor and pleasure to welcome one of my mentors and a guy that I have such a massive amount of respect for. It's Dr. Robert Glover is here in the flesh on the podcast, which is fantastic. If you don't know about Dr. Robert Glover, he's a therapist, he's an author, he's a speaker. He does groundbreaking work in men's psychology and personal development, and he's been doing it for decades. In many respects, he could be considered one of the forefathers of this work. So anyone that's doing men's work really walks on his mighty shoulders and is learning all the time from him. There isn't a guy out there that's doing men's work or a coach that doesn't talk about nice guy syndrome, that doesn't recommend the book No More Mr. Nice Guy as one of the very first texts to give to any man that comes into this work. So it's my great honor and pleasure to have you on. So pleased that you were able to make the time to do this.
Karl, I'm going to hire you as my PR staff. I'm just taking that introduction and thinking, I want to meet that guy. That guy has everybody standing on his shoulders. That's all right.
But you must get that a lot, I guess, because your impact on men's work and your impact on the whole kind of personal development movement is staggering. And No More Mr. Nice Guy is, I mean, it's common parlance now, isn't it? I mean, people talk about nice guy syndrome, even if they don't know you. They have an idea of what nice guy is. I mean, what do you put the success of that whole book and that whole movement down to?
Well, that's a good question. You know, the book No More Mr. Nice Guy has been out 20 something years now. I started writing it probably almost 30 years ago. And back then there was nothing really at all written for men who had codependent tendencies, who gave to get, who conflict avoidant, pleasing, covert contracts. And I just kind of stumbled on that through my own personal work. My then wife told me, you're not a nice guy. Everybody thinks you're a nice guy, but you can be mean. You can be hurtful. I can't trust you. You need to go get help. And I thought, well, I'm a nice guy. Why do I need to get help? But I did, and I landed in some good places. Then as I started working on me, started looking at my own paradigm of being, quote, a nice guy. And if you'd met me 35 years ago, I would have told you, kind of like, how do you know if a person's a vegan? Well, they'll tell you. How do you know if a person's a nice guy? They'll tell you, I'm a nice guy, and I couldn't figure out why everybody else didn't have a similar kind of roadmap that I did of trying to be kind and generous and pleasing and non-angry and non-combative and hiding my sexual agenda, all the stuff that I'd been raised and taught, this is how you'll be a good person. And that came from my mother. It came from church. It came from society. I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s and 70s. So I was working on me. I began to discover my covert contracts, my giving to get, how less than honest I was, how disconnected I was from men, how I sought women's approval, how conflict avoidant I was, how I had no boundaries. I mean, this was just all the stuff. I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy before I started doing my own work. And then all of this stuff came to me, post-doctoral education. And then I had a private practice as a marriage and family therapist. And I started noticing that a lot of the men coming to me were saying the same things I was. They'd come in often with their wife or girlfriend and say, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. How come she doesn't appreciate me? It's never good enough. She's angry all the time. I always give. I treat her better than her ex. I'm raising her kids, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and she never wants to have sex anymore. I heard that a lot. And I thought, well, I can finish these guys' sentences for them. So I started every other week, No More Mr. Nice Guy group. Added some of the single guys that were saying, I'm a nice guy. All the women I know tell me I'm such a nice guy and I'll be a great catch someday, but they don't want to date me. I think that was before the term friend zone had really come along. So I realized I'm not the only one with this paradigm of giving to get, avoiding conflict, hiding anything that might get negative reaction, trying to become what I thought other people wanted me to be. Other men were like, and so I assumed at first every nice guy was just like me. And I soon found out there's lots of stories of nice guys, lots of versions of nice guys, different life experiences, different ways we're interacting with the world. But underneath it all, there's usually a fair amount of what's called toxic shame, a core belief I'm not good enough. There's usually a fair amount of anxiety that the nice guy's trying to manage, and he's trying to become what he thinks other people want him to be, to get to be liked, to be loved, to get his needs met, and hiding anything about himself that might get a negative reaction. So nice guys are anything but authentic. Often they're anything but nice. I talk a lot about that in No More Mr. Nice Guy. So it took me about 6-7 years to write the book. My family members kept saying, especially my sons, Pops, you got to get your that book written. Somebody else is, and my ex-wife said, somebody else is going to write that book. You better get it out there. So it took me about 6-7 years because I was learning to write as well as, learning about nice guy syndrome. And then it took about 3 years to get the book published. A lot of editors for publishing companies said, Robert, we like your book. It's a good book, but our marketing department says men won't buy a self-help book. And
Right.
Thinking, well, you don't know these guys. They will. And this was kind of before Amazon had really taken over and made it so accessible. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It was before podcasts like this where guys could hear about a book, go on Amazon, click it, and then Amazon said, people who bought this book also bought this book, and this book. And guys, we'll click those one too because it must be good. We may never read them, but we'll buy them. So a lot of things have happened, I think, to come back to your question about the longevity of the book and its increasing visibility and popularity. I would say maybe the first 10 years after being published, 7, 8, 9, 10 years, it sold, but, nothing dramatic. My royalty checks, it'd be nice if I, made $10,000, $12,000 a year in royalty checks. Okay, it's selling. Most books don't last longer than 45 days, once they get published. Nowadays with self-publishing, of course, people can publish and leave their books up there, for sale forever. But so it outlived the average book, just even in those first 7, 8, 9, 10 years before it got really broad publicity. Then I think just what happened is I think both nice guy, the number of nice guys walking the planet has expanded, perhaps exponentially.
I want to talk to you about that because that's interesting that you say that. But carry on,
yeah. So many more nice guys, especially young nice guys out there. I think the information is just a lot more accessible now because there's lots of interviews, podcasts, people talking about this. Blogging on the internet, social media. Amazon that makes books more readily available. So a lot of that has gone into that. And then probably 10, 12 years ago, it really started blowing up. The book did. My royalty check started getting, bigger and bigger and bigger. And they've continued to rise every year for the last 10, 12 years. And, I think a lot of it, besides just the internet, social media, just a lot of word of mouth. I did an interview yesterday with a woman who said, I recommend your book to all my coaching clients. I gave a copy to my brother. I buy copies all the time and give, and that's not unusual. Coaches are recommending it. Therapists are recommending it. When I joined a men's program 6 years ago, because I needed, I'm still doing my work. The coach I joined with says, Robert, what do you want from me? Your book's on my reading list. I recommend it to the guys in my program. I said, I'm still working on me, and you've got things that I know I can benefit from. So coaches and therapists, people in 12-step groups. I was on a call yesterday for Integration Nation, and one of the guys said, an ex-girlfriend gave me the book and then broke up with me. Wow. And I've had a lot of men say that wives, exes gave them the book, family members. So it's just kind of reached that, that peak of the bell curve where it's just so much more out there, so much more available. It is talked about in, more in just everyday media. I'll say I get a Google email every time No More Mr. Nice Guy shows up in, online somewhere. So, it shows up in blog articles and in popular articles. I got a notice the other day for an article from a scientific journal of a psychiatrist talking about borderline personality disorder. And I thought, why did I get a Google notice for that? And I read down, and he mentioned covert contracts, which is something I talk about, of how basically borderlines give mixed communication. which a covert contract can be, even though that wasn't my context. And then I got down to the bottom, and in his references with all these scientific, books and articles, and from some pretty big heavy hitters in the psychiatric world that I recognized, there was no more Mr. Nice Guy in this list of references. So even is making it into scientific journals now. So I thought, that's pretty cool.
And that speaks to the depth of the book, and the fact that it's lasted so long. It's still so relevant now. I was running, as you know, I ran a little reading circle within Integration Nation for guys, and it's as relevant now as it was when you wrote it. Back in 2003, I think it was launched. So, it's stood the test of time. One of the things you discuss in the book, and for my audience specifically, is how the nice guy syndrome is kind of created, both from kind of the family dynamic that's going on, and also from a societal perspective. You talk about it from the child's perspective, and from the political and cultural perspective that's going on at the time. And it's interesting that you said that you feel like there's even more nice guys now, coming through. I mean, talk a bit at first, I guess, about that. How is a nice guy created? What is this cauldron of different dynamics that happens to a kid that ends up with them, having these nice guy unconscious behaviors they're not even aware of? What is happening?
All right. Well, let's pull this apart maybe in three different ways. First of all, just kind of the early life familial experience. I think personally, a lot of nice guys that I work with have a pretty easygoing temperament naturally. I mean, they're just, I think I tend to be that way. I mean, people that know me now, Robert, you work all the time, you're persistent, you keep after it. I haven't always been that way. And that's kind of just developed over time, but I've always been pretty easygoing, always kind of wanted to be liked. And my mother often used to say to women that I dated, "Oh, Bobby never did like conflict." And I'm thinking, well, who the fuck likes conflict? I didn't. I don't to this day. I think it was my mother's way of telling the women, be nice to my son. Don't be mean. Don't start fights with him. I seem to be attracted to women who like conflict. I guess that's just one way we all work on our own unconscious shadow. But that's my temperament. And then I was raised to be different from my father. I actually had a pretty good connection with my father in a lot of ways. He taught me sports, took me fishing and camping, and he liked being a family man, but he was also really temperamental and probably pretty narcissistic and moody. And so my mother even told me as a boy, she was raising me and my brother to be different from our father. And then, another part of that role is I listened to my mother talk about her problems. And so I was the good man that my dad wasn't, because I listened. And, I'd go to the store with her and go to the mall with her, be her companion. And I thought that gave me value, right? And then I grew up during the angry 60s and 70s, like I mentioned, where, I'd hear these, every man's a rapist, and erection's a sign of aggression, just all this anger towards men. I'm thinking, I don't want to be that bad guy. Then maybe you hit junior high and adolescence, and you start listening to the girls talk, and they're talking all about this jerk that they're in love with, that they hate, but they're in love with. And I'm listening to them talk and trying to not be that guy, right? Not that guy who only wants sex from them. So I'm hiding my sexual agenda. So in a lot of men, have similar-ish experiences. Now, this might be more of what I call the I'm so good nice guy, that our shame is so pushed down that says I'm not good enough. And that's something that every nice guy is internalized, usually at a very young age. There's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. My needs aren't important. Now, the other nice guy I talk about in No More Mr. Nice Guy is the I'm so bad nice guy. This is probably the guy who was hell on wheels as a kid. Maybe had ADD, couldn't sit still, got in trouble, was always getting punished, called to the principal's office, never could remember to do what he was told. So he was always, in trouble. Maybe started doing drugs or alcohol at an early age, maybe kicked out of school a few times, maybe joined the military. Well, but it's kind of like they just were just doing the opposite of everything that, would give them the life they want. And then and these guys at some age, either the military or they get married or have a kid or find Jesus, they go, I can't keep doing this self-destructive. So they try to become nice. Now, their shame's right up at the surface. People only find out really quickly, what a fuck up I am.
Mm.
So their shame's up here. The I'm so nice guy, his shame's down here. That was me. Okay. I didn't even know I had shame. I just thought I'm a nice guy. And then in the book, I talk about how the Vietnam War, I think, kind of contributed to that. Rebellion against the establishment, our fathers, make love, not war, get in touch with your feminine side. Just a lot of things contribute. I think religion can contribute a lot to the forming of nice guys, especially religion that teaches this vision of maybe Jesus as this passive, go along to get along kind of guy, and
Yeah.
sacrifice your own wants and needs, which I grew up with that. I also grew up with the message that you make one mistake, you're going to hell for all eternity. I grew up with that message. So a lot of this stuff is contributed. Now, when I started working with nice guys 25, 30 years ago, most of the men at that time around my age, 30s and 40s, and now we're in our 50s and 60s. And those guys, especially when I talk about relationship with their father, they would often describe their father in not so nice terms. Either he was not there at all, or if he was there, he was absent, worked a lot, maybe he was angry, addictive, but just often talked about not having a good connection with their father. And the mothers often fell in the category of either being, codependent and needy, or controlling and dominant. And so those are the two stories. Nowadays, when I listen to men who identify as nice guy, so now we're talking, probably Generation X and below, millennials especially, and even the younger generation. The thing I hear most when these younger nice guys talk about family and their fathers is they'll say, my father was a nice guy. And they'll say, only thing my father taught me was don't piss off your mother, because he was working hard at trying not to piss off my mother too. And so my son is 38. And so if you'd ask him, he would tell you the same. My father was a nice guy, because I was when he was growing up. So I think you add that now a lot of boys are being raised by nice guy fathers and taught, be nice, don't upset a woman. And now I think you bring in social media, and I think social media in general is feminizing. And we can talk more about that if you want. I think it's feminizing in that just ask any guy who's been surfing Instagram or on Facebook, doing whatever he does, even endlessly watching YouTube videos. How productive is he after he gets done doing that? Probably completely non-productive. I have so many guys tell me I waste my day watching YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to being on Instagram. So it's feminizing that it makes us non-productive, but it also puts us in that place of where not only we are not challenged anyway, but everything's pushed to us. So that keeps us in a feminine place. Because masculine does, feminine's done too. So when it's pushed to us, we're in our feminine. And there's this whole thing of, oh, do I have status on my social media? Do I have a lot of likes, followers, fans, whatever? That's all feminine too, of getting this external validation. So I think social media has feminized men more. And when I tell men, get off social media, they all freak out. So I say, okay, take the apps off your phone. Just start with that. If you want to look at it on your computer, not just mindlessly scrolling like that. Then So there's that social media component, but I think then there's the other piece that we're all familiar with, is boys go to school now and they hear things like toxic masculine, and elementary school age boys are hearing that either from the kids at school, social media, even the teachers, and the educational system in general, making a generalization, is aimed at empowering girls. It is not aimed at helping boys succeed whatsoever. And it's been that way for quite some time. So boys are dropping through the cracks. They're not getting their needs met. They're being told they're toxic. I did an interview with a 21-year-old podcaster a month or two ago. And he said, what advice would you give to a young man, 17, 18, 19 years old, with social media, that if he talks to a woman or tries to kiss her or tries to hold her hand or tries to set the tone or lead or just tries to take her out, And she feels uncomfortable, as the girls have all been trained in school nowadays. If anything makes you feel uncomfortable, tell somebody. And now she goes on social media and basically says, you raped her, you accosted her, you did, and I go, I don't know what I would do actually if I was 16, 17, 18-year-old and I liked a girl and I was afraid no matter what I did, it might get labeled toxic masculine. It might get labeled as, a hashtag Me Too kind of thing. And she now blasts that to everybody on social media. And I have no ability to defend myself, even if I've done nothing wrong. So all of that contributes to, okay, just be passive. Just be passive. Don't do anything. It might blow up in your face. It might be worse than that. You might get, socially ostracized, punished, lose a job. You never know. So a lot of factors are going on there.
Yeah, and I resonate with a lot of what you said there, and it feels that there is this sort of crisis of masculinity going on. Do you consider it a crisis at the moment in terms of when you look around? Do you see men in crisis at whatever age they're at? It sounds like from what you said it's almost like the men were absent. Well, they're coming back into the family home now. They're trying to be better men, if you like, and then, but at the same time, they've still got those nice guy tendencies. So they're creating the next generation of nice guys, and so it perpetuates itself. Where does this end? Are you positive, or is the crisis ongoing?
Oh, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic as hell. I see myself as part of the solution. That's probably partly why I'm optimistic. Me and many others. So here's how I look at it. Most revolutions, most dynamic social changes are messy. They go through an upheaval. And that's what's happening now. We're in the middle of a messy situation. And just to simplify it, for about 10,000 years, we had what we call the patriarchy, where there's an ownership model of relationship driven by men. Men were in power. Men could do whatever they wanted. Colonialism, racism, abuse of women and children. That needed to change. Now, the patriarchy, often when you hear it talked about, is like, it's all evil, men are all evil. Patriarchy also is about provide and protect. So it was also about men looking out for the interest of those who are less powerful. So it's not all evil. But there was this ownership component and men in power component. So that needed to change. That's over here on this extreme. And in most revolutions, social dynamic change, the change, is slow, it's hard. The revolutionaries have to take extreme measures to finally push it. And then often it goes too far. The pendulum swings. We go to this other extreme. Toxic masculine. Everything men does is evil. Mansplaining, manspreading, man, blah, blah, blah. Everything men do is, horrible. And then I think what's happened is, as I've said, now we got a lot more guys trying not to be that bad man. So, or even just try not to do anything. I often say nowadays the golden rule of masculinity is don't piss off a woman. And, whether it's, a woman we want to date, our wife, our mother, a woman at work. I mean, you can lose your job if you piss off a woman at work. In the United States, there's laws that say companies have to fire a person that makes a woman feel uncomfortable in the workplace. I mean, it's that vague. And the companies know if they fire a guy because a woman reported to HR he made her uncomfortable, they know that the woman will sue them and federal law is on her side. The man, he's going to tuck his tail between his legs, walk out and not do a thing. They know men are not going to be litigious about it. So they'll just fire the guy, right? So even at work, it's don't piss off the woman. And again, I'm not trying to be a victim with all this because I'm not about it. I'm just saying this is the reality. This is where we've swung to.
Yeah.
Now, I think the good news is, now what we might think is, well, maybe we'll swing back to somewhere more in the middle, but that actually I don't think is necessarily healthy. Because if this is a toxic extreme and this is a toxic extreme, I don't know where the tipping point is between two toxic extremes, right? I think we have to rise up to something else, something new completely. Now, the newness is what I'm optimistic about. Yeah, this was not healthy. We swung the other way. This is not healthy. But I believe because of the work that many others before me have done, Joseph Campbell, Robert Bly, Michael Mead, David Data's work, Warren Farrell's work. I'm maybe kind of second wave of men, in that movement. Jordan Peterson's, contributed a lot. There's just, none of us perfect men, but all contributing in our own way. And now with the media and with the benefits of social media, with interviewers like you, I do a handful of these interviews a week, men and women interviewing me. Because now there's people out there, there's coaches, the internet is getting the message out there. When I started my work on me as a guy 30 plus years ago, about all I could locate by word of mouth, because this is kind of pre-internet being ubiquitous. Word of mouth is kind of the Robert Bly, mythopoetic movement. So I find a talking circle, you go out in the woods, beat a drum, have a talking stick, say ho, things like that. That's about all there was.
Yeah.
There were a few other things, but unless you heard about them word of mouth, you're not going to know about them. Now with the internet and all the coaches and the programs, Mankind Project, Sterling Weekends, just so many people doing good work with men, all of them coming at it from their own kind of unique stand and perspective. But what's happening is we really do have this worldwide men's movement where men are actually kind of taking back the narrative of what it means to be male. We're not just, following in this patriarchal model. We're not just following into the toxic masculine. Oh, okay, I better not be bad, be a bad man. And we're saying no. Being male, I'm glad to be a man. I can be a very conscious male, an open-hearted male, a powerful male, a purposeful male. And now we can surround ourselves with other good men who have the same desire, the same agenda. And you know what? There is some pushback against that. I'll see some media articles, usually written in, I used to consider myself liberal. Seems like a liberal went way past me. And now like the New York Times, which I used to subscribe to, National Public Radio in the US, now is kind of like, it's just, kind of gone to those extremes where, there's still pushback. Anything around masculine empowerment still gets likened to patriarchy. I read one article in a Canadian newspaper that linked my book, Neil Strauss's book on the game, I think Rollo Tomasi's book on rational male, Robert Bly's Iron John, had about 6 or 7 books, and it was written by a guy, and about how all of this was, this was evil, basically. This was taking us back to, old patriarchal model of masculinity, and none of those books actually are or do. So I'm wondering if the guy actually even read any of them. And then he quoted a bunch of statistics that boys are better off without fathers. I don't know where he cherry picked that from. There's more statistics that say children are more wounded by bad mothers than by bad fathers, actually. So there's still that some pushback, like they say, no, we don't even want to think of men being empowered because that's evil. But it's kind of like the grassroots is, we need this, we want it. And the thing is, I do almost as many interviews with women coaches as I do with men who love the book, who are spreading the book no more, who want to see strong, conscious, powerful men who can show up in life, make a difference in the world, and make a difference in their lives as women. And so I'm optimistic because I think not only have we gone through, I think, the worst of the swings. And the good news is, it's not just we're just going to go find that kind of sleepy middle ground. We're this thing is on, is supercharged. I really think around the world, there's platforms being built and opened and coaches and podcasts that are giving a message about empowerment that comes with consciousness and open-heartedness and care and love and generosity and fierceness, all of those great qualities of the masculine. So I'm actually excited and optimistic, and I hope I get another good 20 years to be a part of what's happening. That's my deepest desire. Another good 20 years.
You don't show any signs of stopping so far. Yeah, I mean, it's incredible to watch you work. Having been close to you within Integration Nation, you're into everything. It's amazing that you have the time, energy, and just the skills that you have to put it all together. Whether it's the technical stuff or whether it's doing the podcasting or you're just everywhere. I'm going to second that and say let's have another 20, 30 years of Dr. Glover.
I'm okay with that. My granddaughter told me about 10 years ago. She said, Grandpa, how old are you? She's 17 now, so she's probably 7, 8 at the time. And I said, I'm 58. She goes, really? She goes, you're going to live forever. I'm planning on it. Now, my body parts do keep kind of breaking along the way, but we'll just keep patching them together and hanging in there. So, yeah, I hope to be around for a while. I feel like I'm in the prime of my life to have a major influence. That everything in my life up till now has led me to this point of being able. I think I'm unique in a unique position to make a difference in the world. And so, a lot of guys at my age are kind of retiring and, going to go play golf and watch Fox News. And I'm thinking, no, I'm in the prime of my influence. And I have a calling to, give him my best and bring my A game.
If a guy's listening to this, and we've touched on some of the aspects of nice guy, but if he feels, having listened to you speak, that he's thinking, wow, I wasn't aware, and I know that this resonates with a lot of guys when they hear you speak or read the book. It's like it speaks to them in a way that they've not been spoken to before. It's suddenly, that's what happened to me when I read the book, because growing up in my childhood was really challenging, difficult. Father died when I was 3, absent, challenging mother with some medical, some stuff that she never got diagnosed with. So it was a difficult dynamic growing up. But I didn't really know the impact that had on me as an adult until I got hold of your text and then was reading through it and like, well, that's what's happened. So if a guy's listening to this, at whatever age he's at, he's suddenly just, realizing that, I resonate with this. Like, this is some of my behaviors and I'm getting more conscious of them. What does he actually do? What's the steps that he needs to take to begin to address some of this nice guy syndrome?
Okay. In No More Mr. Nice Guy, I begin with, and every time I get asked this question, I always this, don't try to do this alone. One thing about nice guys is we tend to be somewhat isolated. Now we may be, we may have friends and be social, but we're still isolated in that we keep everything inside. We don't tell people what's really going on, what our fears, what our frustrations, our loneliness, our hidden addictive behaviors, things like that. So I say, don't try to do it alone. You did not become a nice guy in social isolation. You're not going to recover from it by just reading a book and by watching some YouTube videos. I mean, all good stuff. Information is helpful. But I'm a big believer that we need to connect with other people. And, I'd say a coach, a therapist, a men's group, a 12-step group, anything. A guy just sent me an email from the UK this week. And he said, Robert, I was going through such a difficult time. Your book literally saved my life. And I hear that. And he's in the UK. And he said, I've been going to this program. I think it's called Andy's Man's Club.
Yeah.
And I looked it up. I never heard of it.
It started off in Yorkshire, I believe, and it's now growing larger and larger. Yeah, a place where guys can come together both online and they do in-person talks.
Yeah, they said every Monday night except bank holidays they have a brew and a biscuit, and the hashtag it's okay to talk because it was started by a friend of a guy named Andy who committed suicide. And so that friend and Andy's mother apparently started this. I mean, I'm just blown away. It's free. It's a place that men can just go talk and be real and be open. And I'm sure there's a lot of shallow talk that goes on as well. But they actually train the facilitators. And so I'm not been, but this guy that sent me the email that, thanked me for my book says that this group's been really helpful. I'm thinking, man, we need this in the U.S. and other places or something like it anyway. And so there's the thing. And that's why I started Integration Nation. Men need community. We need tribe. We need a place to connect, to go be vulnerable, to be supported, to be held accountable, to be challenged. We need that. And I know I've been leading, I did most of my work in men's groups, whether it be 12-step group or other men's groups. I've been in a men's program for 6 years now. At one time when I was in private practice, I was leading 5 men's groups a week. I've started Integration Nation. We have hundreds of men there. And we got to go. I do weekend workshops. I just did one a couple of weeks ago. All it takes is a man to sit and listen to 4 or 5 other guys introduce themselves and talk about their nice guy patterns to go, I'm not alone. And I go, I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I can relate to that. Maybe I'm not messed up. And then they reveal things they've never told anybody. The porn addiction that they never told anybody about, the childhood sexual abuse they experienced, they never told anybody about, their frustration in their marriage, their sexless marriage that they never tell anybody about. All of this, when men get with other men, women say, oh, men don't talk. Men don't share their feelings. Men aren't emotional. Bullshit. Men get with men and they open up. They get real. When there's no women around to criticize us or tell us you're doing it wrong, we open up and get real. So in working on nice guy syndrome, don't do it alone. Go find a 12-step group. Go find a coach. Go find a mentor. Go find Integration Nation. Go find any number of programs that are out there, especially ones that encourage vulnerability, consciousness, open-heartedness, personal accountability and responsibility, not just the ones that tell you, here's how you go pick up chicks, here's how you go become a millionaire, I got nothing against that stuff other than it's one-dimensional and it won't really give you the depth of what you want or need. So go find safe people. For nice guys, other things we work on is learning to be honest. I thought I was a pretty honest guy. The truth was, if I thought anybody might get upset about anything, I withheld information, I might even out lie about it. I'd misdirect their attention. Go learn to be honest. And that's challenging. And that was a big part of my early recovery from nice guy syndrome, was really focusing on speaking the truth and being a what you see is what you get kind of guy. Learning to set boundaries. Most people in life, but especially most nice guys, don't set boundaries. We let people walk on us, treat us badly, hurt us, and we just keep it in and get resentful and get passive aggressive or have victim pukes and blow up. I didn't learn about boundaries till I was in my 30s. I was in my second marriage. I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy. I'd never heard of boundaries. We got to have boundaries. Learn to make your needs a priority. Nice guys operate by covert contracts. We give to get. I'll read your mind and give to you, and then you'll read my mind and give back to me. Now, unfortunately, nobody knows about the covert contract. We don't even know about it. We just want to be loved and appreciated for all the things we do. But the problem is nice guys are terrible receivers. I still, after working on this for 30 years, I have to work on just, it's as simple as often when my wife and I take the dog for a walk in the morning. And we walked this morning just before I got on the call with you. And she's a gym rat. So she works out 2 hours a day. So she eats quite a bit to fuel her metabolism. So often when we're heading out, she's got a handful of almonds. And so we go out and I tend to, do a fast till about noon and then before I eat. And she'll hand me, you want some, hand me a couple almonds. And there's that part of me that, no, I'm not eating anything till noon. And I go, she wants to give to me. It makes her feel good to get. And so I'll take a couple almonds and say, thank you. I still, I'll go to take the garbage out, just taking a bag of garbage out the front, front door right over here by the kitchen, go through the front gate, put it by the street. It's all of 10 meters, and I'm heading out. She goes, do you want some help? I'm going, I don't need any help to take the garbage out. But I realize that's her way of saying, can I come be with you? Can I help you? I've learned to say yes. Come help. I'll be sitting at the table or eating dinner as a family. And I'll look, I don't have a fork. And I'll just get up to go get it. She goes, what do you need? And I'll go, a fork. She goes, I'll get it. And I'm thinking, I can go get my own fork. I don't want to be like my dad. And I realize she feels loved if I let her go get the fork for me. Right? So I've had to learn to receive and let people give to me. So that's another key piece of nice guy syndrome. When we can let people give to us, when we can give to ourselves, surround ourselves with people who want to give us, we now can give to others from the overflow, but it's clean, right? No covert contract, no strings attached, none of this. I'm giving this to you so you'll love me, appreciate me, or have sex with me later on. I'm just giving because I have so much to give. But we have to give to ourselves first and let other people give to us. So those are really some of the key pieces. I'll throw in there, the safe people. Go reveal your shame. Go reveal the things about you that you don't tell people about, that you keep in and you think make you a bad person. When I started going to a 12-step group really early on in my personal recovery, um, it was so liberating to get up and go to this group once a week and just tell the things about me I'd never told before. It's like, nobody had big negative reactions. Everybody said, "Thank you for sharing, Robert." And so releasing that shame. And then also, I'd say a piece that I kind of really came to understand more even after I wrote the book, learning to soothe our anxiety, because most nice guys are driven by anxiety. We don't want people to be upset with us. We don't like conflict. We don't want to fail. We don't want to look foolish. We're afraid of the unknown. We don't want to take risks. And so if we can learn to get grounded and soothe our anxiety, we can get out of our comfort zone. We can live at our edge. We can take risks. We can be bold. We can be vulnerable. We can do the things that scare us. And again, I think we need good men at our side to do those kind of things.
Awesome. Such a great advice and knowledge and wisdom coming out. But in terms of if a man doesn't deal with those nice guy tendencies in his life, what kind of a life is he actually going to lead? It strikes me that, dealing with it, doing the work, so we call it, is part of you becoming, right? It's part of you becoming a real person, not just a kind of, wooden doll, a kind of Pinocchio that you're just kind of trying to please everyone all the time. But it's about stepping into who you really are, right? And so what happens to a guy if he doesn't deal with these things?
One of the things I say really early in the preface of No More Mr. Nice Guy, and then it's repeated in the book, that breaking free from the nice guy syndrome is not about becoming a better person or a different person. It's about becoming more us. It's embracing, integrating all aspects of ourselves. Our dark side, the things we don't like people to see, and the things that we feel pretty good about, is bringing those together and letting ourselves look at them, let other people see it, and be what you see is what you get kind of guy. So, and this is a little bit challenging for men to understand. The motto of Integration Nation is good men doing better. And a lot of guys come and say, well, if you're telling me that I'm doing better, you're saying I'm not good enough or I'm bad. I go, no. And that's hard for men to grasp. But when we have toxic shame that says I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough, there's something wrong with me, I'm broken, the only alternatives we see is either try to compensate and do better so, I can be a better person and be loved, or hide all of that from people, right? So there's a couple of things that partly answer your question. We're going to spend our life trying to get everybody's approval, avoiding conflict, trying to do it right. We'll also hide all these things about ourselves from people. Our needs, that's not good when we go around hiding our needs, our wants, our sexuality, our opinions, our desires, hiding all that because we might get a negative reaction. Who are we? So the recovery from nice guy syndrome isn't we're going to become better men. Is we're going to shed the things we've taken on that don't serve us, shedding the shame, shedding the anxiety, and accepting our inherent lovableness, that we're fine, we're great. We don't have to become better. Now, can we do better? Yeah, every moment of every day. And that's not like, oh, I got to do better, do better, do better. It's just like, for example, I got my Do Better wristband on, and it just says it's Integration Nation, do better. And, it just reminds me, listen better, be more patient, be more generous, set better boundaries, get angry better when I need to. I'm not becoming a better man, but I can do better in this world, and I can rise up. So to kind of come back to your question, I often have made the comments that nice guys are good at being good, but not great at being great. Most nice guys, I have a course I teach called Nice Guys Don't Finish Last, They Rot in Middle Management. Most nice guys, because we are conscientious, because we are kind of approval seeking, because we do want to do it right, because we don't want to mess up, well, we're often fairly good, right? If we could measure things like in the workplace, and for example, I don't meet a lot of nice guys that are like super obese. Most nice guys, yeah, maybe we could be in better shape, but most nice guys are good. But to get great, we got to shed a lot of self-limiting beliefs, shed our shame, shed our fear, shed our anxiety. To do great, we have to have a team behind us. I mean, I'm building Integration Nation. I've got 25 plus coaching volunteers. I've got paid staff. I got people that work day and night right along with me for almost no money. And I couldn't do what I'm doing without a team, without a tribe. So with that, we can accomplish amazing things if we can be vulnerable, be able to take risks, have a community to support us, hold us accountable. I've got writing support groups. I got exercise accountability groups. I do writer retreats at my house. I've got a men's group I've been meeting with for 6 years. We get online every other week. We're in it for life. I mean, I've got all of these support systems to help me level up and live my best life and be that best version of me. Do I think I'm perfectly lovable as I am? Yeah, I do. I don't have to be better for anybody to like me more, for me to like me more. And I think to penetrate the world, to put a dent in the cosmos in the way I think I is my purpose to do, I got to keep leveling up. I got to keep leveling up. So I think to answer your question, I think if a man does not shed his nice guy syndrome, he'll often live a fairly mediocre life. Not terrible. And, some guys are kind of right below that line. Some guys are just above the line. I work with some guys, for example, that have done real well in business. And they can't talk to a woman to save their life, or their marriage has been shitty for 20 years because they're a nice guy. But they can do well in business. So it's not like I can say it's going to be like this. You may excel in some ways. Maybe your perfectionism or your desire for external approval will drive you to excel in some ways. But you'll often still feel empty, disconnected, vulnerable, and not good enough. That's the thing. Some of the most successful people I know have a deep core. It's still not good enough.
Yeah.
I should be better.
Talk about, we obviously get involved with Integration Nation and yourself in terms of being one of the coaches involved in that. And it's been amazing to experience that group of people coming together. Integration Nation is an option for guys if they want to learn more about your work and really get with tribe. Where's that come from in your life? Like, what was the stimulus for you to set something like that up?
Well, it's been a progression. As I said, I began my own personal journey in a 12-step group and just being supported, releasing shame, got into a men's group. That was transformative. I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy while in that men's group. I've done, been part of a men's group for the last 6 years that, has retreats and online calls. And, I've kept growing. And I've always believed in community for men, always believed in groups. I've led workshops for the last 20 years. As I said, I was doing 5 men's groups a week when I was in private practice. So I believe in the community. I need it. Men need it. And probably if we go back maybe 5-6 years ago, about 6 years ago, I had a pretty near-death experience. I almost died. I had a tumor blocking my small intestine that was killing me. I couldn't eat, couldn't shit, was in constant pain, and nobody could find the problem. Doctors here in Mexico, doctors in the US. Finally, a doctor found it, ran the right test, did surgery. I've been great ever since. But, that kind of, brush with death, it would have killed me if they'd not found what was wrong. I was a golf ball sized tumor. And the doctor told my wife, I don't know how he was eating or shitting. My wife said he wasn't. I lost over 30 pounds. I just couldn't get out of bed. I was in pain constantly. So, having that dance with death kind of wakes you up. And, I was already pretty productive. I was, kind of nice guy productive. A lot of people would have said, Robert, you're very productive. But, I was pretty productive. And so around that time, I realized, I've created tons of material. I've written or co-written 4 books. More I'm in process of working on, but I've recorded courses. I've done online forums. I've done hundreds and hundreds of hours of live Q&A. All of that is archived. And I thought, I don't want to die and all that just end up in a Dropbox folder somewhere. So working with my tech assistant, we started saying, well, listen, we can take everything you've ever created and we can transcribe it, and then we create search engine to work with it. And even someday we can have AI use. I said, "Oh, that's a long way off." I'm not a very good prognosticator. So AI. So he and I a few years ago set up a team to start just transcribing everything I've ever created. And then about 3 years ago now, a guy attending a workshop with me said, "Robert, you should start a members program for men. My wife has a sourdough membership program, and she made $750,000 in the last 2 years." I'm going, "For sourdough bread?" I'm going, okay. So I started looking at that. What would a membership program for men look like? And how could I incorporate all of this content and material that I've created? And so that's plugging along. And so I thought, I think I want to move forward to this. So I reached out to some of my certified coaches and proposed a form of a partnership that's evolved over time after an accountant and 2 attorneys said, "No, don't create a partnership." They're like it's getting married to 7 different people and everybody's waiting for the divorce. It affects everybody else. So I then proceeded to start building Integration Nation with the help of 7 my certified coaches, my tech guy, and took about a year and a half of just building the technology. And we need to launch the MVP, the most viable product. And so what we launched in July of 2023, we're now March 24, was the community aspect of Integration Nation. And like I said, I'm a big believer. Right now, it's all virtual. It's all online. We have up to 9 virtual calls a week. I'm on one every Thursday where I teach a lesson, do Q&A. The guys can go in breakout rooms. Last night, we interviewed Karen Brody, an author. Once a month, we have different people come on that I interview. About once a month, I'll do an AMA call. So I'm on those calls every Thursday. And then we have 7. We're about to add an 8th tribe call where these are an hour call once a week that guys can just go drop in on, just connect, be supported, be challenged. So we have a lot of virtual stuff happening. We're about to launch in-person meetups where people can just, hey, I'm in the UK, I'm in London, Saturday on this date, let's go meet up and do this, So we're about to launch that. So we have all kinds of things we're trying to do. We'll probably in the next years or 2 launch weekend retreats, kind of initiation retreats. Want to do some conferences, annual conferences with guest speakers. Where mainly it's just how can we get guys together virtually and in person. And so we're 9 months into it. We have an enrollment period once a month for 72 hours. We just ended one yesterday. 98 guys came in yesterday. So new members. So we have several hundred members in Integration Nation. Again, we have the calls. We have a timeline. Just almost any way that my brain can think of to that men can connect with each other. We're trying to make that a possibility and trying to make it reasonably priced. It is a membership program. We have scholarships that we've started offering. We're going to launch another tier of this. Hopefully, in the next 6-8 months, that's going to be that part that has all my content that people can access, through search engine, through artificial intelligence, to be able to, just help guys get even more good information. So that's still coming. There's a lot coming yet. Unfortunately, my brain doesn't stop thinking, and we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do this. So basically, what I have my team kind of keep me reined in a little bit. Let's get good at this first, then we can try that. So
it's an amazing community. And if there's guys listening out there that are looking for the tribe, if you've resonated with the call and what Dr. Glover said, what I've said in terms of you're looking for that tribe, you're looking to work on those tendencies, you're looking to grow as a man in all different aspects of your life, whether it's your health or your relationship or your income, your career. Having experienced Integration Nation now for a number of months, I can tell you it is incredible value for what it's offered, and the exposure that you get both to the coaches and you get to ask questions direct to Dr. Glover on a regular basis where you can drop in. Is tremendously generous with his time. I would certainly recommend Integration Nation as a place where you can begin and that journey and also stay, because it's constantly growing and evolving. So as someone who's experienced it directly, I just want to acknowledge you, Dr. Glover, and thank you for for the work that you do. It's amazing. It always impresses me. This whole interview has been incredible for me. So I just want to say thank you ever so much for your work and the time we've got to spend together today.
Karl, I thank you for the invitation. Thank you for your contribution to Integration Nation. And I'll just say, the program is primarily run by volunteers, men who believe in what we're trying to do, people like you that say, I want to be a part of this. And I can't speak for your direct experience, but even though I'm running the show, I get so much benefit out of it. I go on calls, I'm connected to men, I see men's enthusiasm, I see men supporting each other. I benefit by getting to go be a part of this. And that's been the experience, like the 25 or so coaches. We have very little turnover of coaches. It's all volunteer. Just men are loving having this place to be. And that makes me feel good. I'm happy and proud and appreciative of guys like you that come invest their time in it. And I know you must get out of it as well, or you wouldn't be coming back.
A massive amount of benefits, so many ways, stuff that you aren't necessarily aware of. I already met up with a couple of guys from Integration Nation in the UK in person, so that has already happened. I also feel like it's helped me in terms of developing my own business because I see the work that you're doing, the entrepreneurial work, the hustle that you give it, the hustle the other coaches are giving it, the way you're always pushing those boundaries. All of that stuff rubs off, and it's stuff that you won't necessarily see or is never directly spoken about, but just being around a group of men that are committed to themselves, committed to a cause, committed to growing as men and helping other men grow. That is what Integration Nation is about. And so it has exponential impact on the men that are within that community. So I'd absolutely recommend it to you. Dr. Glover, I'm appreciative of your time. Thank you so much for joining us.
Karl, thanks for the invitation, and we'll see you really soon, I'm sure.
I'll see you on a call.
All right.
See you soon.